Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
I'm Travis Holmes, BigCatCountry.com.
And you're doing this thing with us here on the Believe Podcast Network. Champion! I just got done preaching on the stream on Thursday night. Sorry I was late. I had the Magic season opener to go to. But I'm preaching think long term. There's positivity coming. And then you come out here with your "this team makes me drink" shirt. What the heck, bro? What are we doing? Oh, I know why.
Hey, man.
It's the Trevor Lawrence episode.
I'm not a Trevor Lawrence hater, but I love my shirt, and I haven't had very many opportunities to wear it this year. Thank you, Liam Coen, James Gladstone, for that. But this was a pretty rough week.
Yes.
For the media, it was a pretty rough week. Just having these conversations about whether it's the receivers, whether it's the quarterback, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's your mama, like whoever, whether it's anybody. Like, it's just been a lot of infighting within the Duval devout fan base and media alike. So I thought it was just a good time to be like, let's calm down, y'all. And let's kind of have the conversation surrounding Trevor that, pretty much everybody's kind of fighting about, whether you're a defensive former player, Austin Lane, whether you're an offensive former player, Jimmy Smith, etc. Everyone kind of has their strong opinions on this conversation.
And your background allegedly seems to have an impact on your opinion. Now, here's what I think's funny, Travis. And we've made this point on the show before, as spectrums go for different points of view, you don't get more opposite than us, right? Yeah. You are below 300 pounds. You run faster, or maybe not as fast now as you did then, but you certainly ran fast. Yeah. I had an excellent shuttle time. So that's my claim to fame with speed. I had a better shuttle time than my quarterbacks. But that is kind of impressive. But all that to say, as an offensive lineman, not only were you a different body and skill position type, you were on the other side of the damn ball. But here's why I bring that whole thing up, and I think why we're pretty good to talk about it, is our opinion on Trevor Lawrence is relatively similar. It ain't as bad as everybody says. It ain't as good as everybody says. But before we get too far into it, a lot of you Duval divers out there did ask about the prince that was promised, as he was dubbed at some point by Nick Wright. But the one we picked to represent you all, I think the best, is the one here that we have that we'll show here at the moment. How can the Jags fix T-Law's accuracy in year 5? Because everything else that surrounds Trevor Lawrence, it goes first and foremost with him delivering the football and doing so without committing a turnover. Period. Point blank. End of story. That's why I feel like that was the question we picked more than anything else. Now, whether we evaluate how to fix Trevor, the question first should be posed: is Trevor a problem? And the thing is, I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that yet. Right?
No. You say no. To answer the question that you asked, is Trevor a problem? Yeah, I think we objectively can say the answer is yes.
A problem, like how you worded that. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, if you say, is he a problem? Because if your quarterback is not the solution, not a solution, if your quarterback's not the solution, then he is a problem. I think objectively we can say that. So he is a problem because we don't know for sure that he is absolutely the solution. That's where I land on that question.
That is interesting, because I will add this about that. God, I really like that. The more I think about this, is up there with you saying that the Jags should have beaten the Chiefs with Chad Henne and stuff, and that was their opportunity. I'm having that kind of a moment. If you haven't seen that episode, I know it's a couple of years old, but check it out. It's a good episode. It's there on the Duval Dive YouTube channel. If you're following, you can jump in there and check that out. And if you're not following, go follow and do that anyway.
Yes, please.
I think what you're saying is generally true, and my response was about to be, full disclosure, well, what about game managers? But good game managers, at some point, when you need them on money downs, move the chains. And this isn't to say that Trevor Lawrence has never done that, but and it's funny, I think you're going to bring up a Brett Coleman stat during this episode, but I think even over and above that, I've heard Brett Coleman say that Trevor's good for that one. The F is that throw per game, right? And I think that's the piece with Trevor too that's interesting. Now, and you already got rid of the graphic, but I'm not mad that you did because I want to bring this up though too. We keep talking about Trevor Lawrence as a year 5 quarterback. Here's the issue I have with that. If we're going to have the conversation, especially when we compared C.J. Stroud to Trevor Lawrence with our good friend Jordan DeLugo, and we make the point that he was mired in Urban's bad coaching, I don't really think it's appropriate to call him a year 5 quarterback if we're in a state where Dougie P was a guy who couldn't adjust on offense, whose offensive coordinator wasn't as good as everybody would like.
Sure.
Another year is burned off. We're basically looking at a year 3 quarterback. Now, should he be better in year 3, even with that argument than he is now? Absolutely. But it's a fascinating thing in his development this time. I don't know if you buy he's not really a 5-year quarterback defense, but I think
I think I actually agree with that landing point. That I don't view him as a year 5 quarterback. And I know that's what his pay says he is, and that does have to go into the conversation because at the end of the day, what you're being paid can impact your expectations that are laid up on you. Like if you can't, like it's the whole Peyton Manning argument all over again. Like if you're getting paid $50 million a year, you're limiting your team's ability to then bring in the top tier talent to put surrounding you. That so the expectations built upon your shoulders now have become exponentially larger because of the contract that you signed. So in a lot of ways, I get that point of, well, yeah, you're a year 5 quarterback, so you got year 5 expectations, even though you haven't been giving 5 years of development from the previous coaching staff.
Completely fair. Yeah, money is expectations. And let me add to this. I don't think money necessarily, and especially in Trevor's case, talks about what you are, although fans will still ask the question, and they should. They're entitled to it. You Duval devout, you do the thing. If you're critical of Trevor and you're doing it from a intellectually honest place, like we try to be when we're critical, you're not like Jason Trent shouts Jaguar United, just a Trevor hater for the sake of doing it. I'm joking, brother. I love you. That's not the same. Where I feel like the contract, what it actually is, was a piece of paper designed to what they think Trevor can be more than what he is right now.
Sure. But if that's truly the case, I mean, that's nice. If it's a contract based on what you can be, and if you don't hit the expectations built upon this contract of who they think you can be, then you would objectively then say that contract was not a good contract. I think this is kind of how that works. That's the market.
Unless in year 7, where he'll actually be a year 5 contract, if Liam Coen keeps proving to be Liam Coen, he may still get there.
That's fair. Absolutely fair. And that's the whole that's the conversation of like we're looking at him like a rookie being built up on his foundation. And that's the funniest part about all of this is we haven't even had the conversation surrounding why Trevor Lawrence is struggling. We talk about the fact that he's struggling. We do talk about the fact that he's struggling significantly. And I say, and some folks was like, he's not struggling, he's average. Well, I mean, objectively, looking at him in the landscape of the other NFL quarterbacks across the rest of the NFL, he's 28th in passer rating, 32nd in completion percentage. Shout out Ryan Michael for those stats. Tied for 23rd in touchdown percentage, 28th in success rate. I mean, he's in the bottom, let's say 8 in nearly every NFL category for a quarterback as far as what you'd expect to see from a winning quarterback. I believe he was even 25th in QBR, which takes into consideration drops and everything else. Daniel Griffiths also put the additional stats out there as far as adjusted completion percentage, where Trevor Lawrence is 25th in the league for throws behind the line of scrimmage, 24th in the league for the short throws, 16th in intermediate area, and 29th on the deep ball throwing. And that, again, adjusted completion percentage accounts for drops, throwaways, batted balls, spikes, and the throws where he's hit as thrown. So it basically tries to eliminate all the junk to find out where a quarterback truly lies. And in 2025, in every area but the intermediate passing, Trevor Lawrence is you're legitimately in the bottom 8 NFL quarterbacks in all of those areas.
And I got to make an add-on point here, especially because you heard me gross. You heard me talk about the behind the line of scrimmage. What are those throws, Travis?
That's screens. That's your wide receiver screens, your running back screens.
And what does Liam Coen love to beep do?
That is literally what his offense is built up on, is those cheap yards, those free yards. So when folks ask, where are the screens? Where are those free cheap yards that Liam Coen brought in? And they literally had full conversations surrounding De'Ami Brown's, like when they signed De'Ami Brown, saying that he can pick up all those yards after the catch. Where's the yak? Like all those conversations generally will fall on the quarterback. They don't always fall on the quarterback. I want to be clear. If the receivers are on a different page, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Maybe they're in the wrong spot. Those
Maybe
things do absolutely happen.
To your point, if the receiver blocking is bad, you can't screen worth a damn. Absolutely accurate.
Right. I brought that up on the Wednesday Duval dive. You're right. Correct.
But the underrated point also made, and the reason why the quarterback, God, I'm glad you made this point. Even on throws where Trevor connects, is the ball in the right place to get forward progress. Man, that's a good point by you.
Yep. And that's what we talked about on Wednesday. It's like if you throwing it low and then I have to gather the ball and then try to read the defensive back, I've kind of lost any ability, that edge, because this is the NFL. These guys, the difference between good and great can be literally a quarter of a second, a half of a second, because that's the difference even in time to throw for the great quarterbacks from the good quarterbacks. Like, it is truly that. If you threw it high and I have to gather myself, or now I've lost my advantage, that could have been a great explosive play, and it's now just a 3-yard gain. It's a 5-yard gain. Are you throwing it on the front shoulder where I can get the yak, or are you throwing it behind me where I got to turn around and it slows me down and I lose all my momentum? Like, those kinds of throws are the layups. And if you're missing on the layups, then it's going to be so much harder to kind of just be an efficient offense. And that's before we even add the conversation of Trevor Lawrence being nearly at the bottom of the league on his deep ball passing. And we've talked about that for weeks here, like with video evidence, multiple weeks, where they're just not able to connect on the deep ball throws. And if you're not successful on the explosives, and you're also not successful on the efficient short throws or the screens behind the line of scrimmage, you can't have an efficient offense to stay on the field only eating on intermediate throws, on those dig routes and on those corner routes and on those deep outs. That can't be your whole offense. And that's kind of where the Jaguars have been so far. They're lucky to be 4-3 in that process, because it really has been a struggle with the passing game.
Well, it can be your whole offense if you're not behind the sticks and you're a legitimate threat to run on other downs too. I think that's a factor as well. I would even add this. Yeah, I'll make this point too. And this is in the interest of full disclosure. This is not me giving Trevor a pass, but you're, pardon the pun, but we're calling short passes layups, yet we go to all the trouble to talk about the precision of a screen. Are they layups? Is the true layup the intermediate pass where the defense, an intermediate pass is probably going to be thrown on, let's say, a third and manageable, we'll call it, and there's still a threat to run the ball, but Liam Coen skeeps a dude open, kind of like the Travis Hunter pass we talked about on the Wednesday show against the Rams, where the ball was tipped and you know, it fell harmlessly to the turf from the Rams' perspective. Those are the gimme throws because they're the widest open, right? What was the kind of stuff that even worked against the Chiefs, if I remember correctly, was challenging corners at the intermediate piece. Now, one of my favorite catches of the year was made by Travis Hunter in the long ball. But listen, you know, at day's end, I feel like me pointing that out as a sense of reality too just demonstrates how much more sharp Trevor needs to be for this offense to work.
Well, when I say layup, I'm saying that I'm using this comparatively. Like, layups these are the throws that you're supposed to hit every time. So when we say layup, I'm just speaking on his level of consistency.
There you go.
Because that's the thing that matters. When you talked about being a game manager, that is the definition of a game manager. If you look up game manager in the dictionary, well, if it was in a dictionary, as you know, game manager, a sports dictionary, it would have the word consistency.
I actually have an episode of the Sports Symposium with the Hilarity by Default that defines strategist, tactician, field general, gunslinger, and game management, all 3 types of quarterback. So
Cool.
check that out. The first
Okay.
thing it lists, to your point, is hold on to the damn ball. Don't turn it over.
Well,
and the other thing is making the plays when you're supposed to.
and so my overall point in that is consistency. So if you know who you have, you know what you're getting that day, and that is the biggest part of Trevor's game that I will say is in question, at least in the 2025 season. Is we know his upside. We've seen it so frequently. We know the plays that he can make, and when he does it, it's like, whoo boy, like that was it. That was that throw that no one else can make, and most quarterbacks may not even try, and it was incredible. But then you have those mistakes that it's like no one should make that mistake. And you have both things, and that's the part, like trying to balance what that is and who you're getting, I guess, is the biggest part of this conversation that makes it so infuriating if you're a Jaguar fan, if you're a Jaguar critic, whatever you are. And that's kind of where I'm like leaning on this, because if you're a critic of Trevor Lawrence, or if you're a fan of Trevor Lawrence, no matter which side of the line you kind of fall on, you have evidence to show in this season and in most games. Even like it might even be like in this Rams game, it was like, oh man, that first quarter was rough. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And then you have the second half of the second quarter and most of the third quarter. And it's like, all right, that's dope. Trevor Lawrence, that was great play. And
Oh.
then you get like, and it's like, dude, I need consistency. I need to know which Trevor Lawrence is showing up, so then I know what I need surrounding you to be successful. If I have to have a running game, cool. I got whoever I need to get. Derrick Henry. I'm investing like crazy in maulers at offensive line. I know what I'm building around this guy. But if you're going to be this incredible quarterback, and then the next week you're going to be this terrible quarterback, and then next week you're an incredible quarterback, and you're all over the place, then I don't know what I need to put around you for consistency, because you're not giving me consistency, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and this, I don't think this team was built for game management. I really don't. I know it was built so less pressure was put onto Trevor, so a running game can work, but I don't think it's built for game management. But here's the thing, Travis, and something else that I really think needs to be mentioned, because, I think the 2 best examples this season, there's others, but my 2 favorite is what I'll say. It's everybody's favorite right now, and amongst the Duval devout for sure. Falling down and getting up and then getting a winning touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tim Patrick touchdown against Seattle, where he was doomed.
Yeah,
doomed! Nice. And just goes,
nice.
Hey, Tim, go. And finds a way to get it to the dude. Those plays where it all falls apart and he still finds a way are the ones that I think define and give the Trevor Lawrence fans, whatever you want to call it, the reason for the next one, the reason why they continue to feel good about him.
So I have, because I'm riding with Big Cat Country, I'm always in the comments having these conversations with a lot of the Duval devout, and I'm always in the middle of arguments with some people who I would consider like legitimate Trevor Lawrence haters. Like, just there's no way to say it's anything else. And you'll have the folks on both sides of the line who will say, hey man, the offensive line for the first 4 weeks of the season were leading the NFL yards before contact. They were dominant. They were incredible. It was great. And then you can even make the same argument the first parts of the season, other than like certain points with Walker Little struggles early in the season, they were also top 5 in pass protection on nearly every metric. And Trevor was still struggling a little bit. Like, they were winning, but they weren't winning because of Trevor. They just weren't losing because of Trevor. Like,
They're winning because of the run game in a lot of cases, let's be honest.
And the turnovers. Like, he was basically average at that
point.
point.
Special teams scoring. Shouts to Parker Washington, right?
Yeah, so that's been the argument for the Trevor Lawrence critics in that time frame. And I'm like, it's not a terrible argument, but he's also starting early in a new offense. Like, we know what this is. So I'm trying to give the man some grace while he kind of figures it out. But this is where I'm kind of questioning a lot of this, because normally in a situation like this, if you were to view Trevor Lawrence not as a 5th-year quarterback, but as a year 2, year 3, whatever year guy in a new system that's a complicated system, you might not feel weird about telling that guy he needs to sit down for a year. If you had an NFL quarterback who said, I need to work on your foundation, I need to work on your footwork, as they have with Trevor Lawrence, I need to work on your whole system and your organization and how you're throwing the ball. Or we're going to switch your feet and put a different foot forward. Like, we're going to make sure all these things are in sync and timed up. That sounds so similar to the Anthony Richardson situation, the AR-15 situation. No, I'm not trying to say that Trevor Lawrence is
You're
AR-15,
not.
but I am saying that that's a significant change that folks are acting like it should be fine by now. It's 7 weeks in, and I'm like, that's a thing that a coach will tell you. You need to drill this all off season and come back to me, and we'll figure out where you are. Like, that's normally how that looks. And they're trying to do this thing in real time with Trevor Lawrence while still playing NFL football games. And that's fascinating because I understand why it's struggling to get it figured out, because it's a big thing that's happening in front of our eyes week by week.
And we still haven't brought up Trevor's still recovering from injury in the offseason, so he didn't have a full offseason with this new coach, with this new complicated system, who was also 4-3 at this time that year with that team, where he was bringing that up. Shouts to his work with the Bucs, of course, being Liam Coen. Man, those are all good points. Now, for those Trevor haters that want to act like the O-line was sliced bread, and man, listen, how hard have I been standing for this Jags O-line, buddy?
Yeah.
Right? It's the whole source of my crackheadiest take of this team being a shot to win the division. And I'm still pissed that Jonathan Taylor's putting in all that work. I said what I said. Hush, Danny Dimes. You're doing great things with a great roster. I respect you managing the game, but it's still Jonathan Taylor's team. I said what I said. Anyways, thank you, sir. With all that in mind, how can we talk about great protection and all these other things? What you've done is make the O-line the orphans, because there's more than one, obviously. You've made them the orphans that save the orphanage by pulling the fire alarm. The problem is they're committing all these penalties and setting the damn orphanage on fire in the first place. Maybe Trevor needs to get out from behind the sticks too.
Yeah, but I think it's a shared responsibility, even if you're just looking at the sacks.
Absolutely. I agree.
Even if you're looking at the sacks, like I think half of the sacks fall on.
I'm not saying just sacks, but and I hate that I cut you off there, but I want to make it clear it's not just sacks, because you're making a better point to win that. A lot of the sacks, man. Did I not go to work on Trevor Lawrence this past instant reaction after the London game against the Rams about him trying to run?
Yeah. Which he said he had to forget the Chiefs' game plan. I'm paraphrasing, but the gist of it being like he had to get out of the mindset of the Chiefs' game plan because the Seahawks weren't going to allow him to run in the way that they were playing defense. Like they weren't. I mean, they were spying him on different occasions. They were obviously stunting, and they were just way more athletic. Like they were just not going to let him beat him in that same way after they saw that Chiefs tape. So, yeah. He acknowledged
and show him John Matthew Stafford throwing the damn ball away.
Well, that's another part. I mean, that's the part of that situational awareness that I think, even if you are a Trevor Lawrence stan, even if you're a fan of his play, even if you fully support him, you probably would be like, I really do wish his situational awareness was better. Not running 4 yards past the line of scrimmage and throwing the ball twice this season. Not allowing a referee to consider you still in bounds when you out of bounds when you were trying to slide in bounds to end the football game, not throwing the ball in these dangerous situations when you don't have to do it, like just not taking sacks and first down scenarios when you have 5 seconds to throw. Kind of those situational. If you want to be situational masters, those are your opportunities to achieve, that level of mastery of the quarterback position. You have to you have to dominate in those situations. And he's shown on multiple occasions that he's not ready for those situations when the moment occurs. And I think in the second half of the season, I think even the Trevor Lawrence fans would say, I would like to see him be better in those situations. And I think that would be a reasonable assumption.
Let me blow your mind with this concept. If that happens and he improves throughout the back half of the year, as much as we talk about 2023, where they were off to a great start and then blew it at the end to keep themselves out of the playoffs and gives the Texans a reason to run their silly mouths. How's that looking now, fam? I'm also reminded of the year before. Horrible start, if I remember correctly. What was it that rattled off? 8 straight wins? Something like that?
2022?
Yeah.
It was something like that. It was like 6 and like they ended up getting like it was like 8-2, 8-3, something like that in the second half.
May not have been straight wins, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And now with 10 games left, at the second weakest strength of schedule in the league, so your stats said on the stream this week, that opportunity to get sharp, to tune up against a weaker schedule exists.
Dang, 7-2.
Excuse me.
But 7-2. There you go.
So all of the above to say, if that happens, when your quarterback is confident, then your receiver core gets confident. Why am I bringing that up? For all the people that are currently screaming at their screen or in their cars or wherever they're listening to the podcast, that if your quarterback's confidence is up, your receiver's confidence is up, and then maybe, just maybe, the drop problem goes with it. I'm saying it could be a chain reaction if Trevor gets better.
Yeah, but to answer the original question, how do you help Trevor Lawrence accuracy? It's weird that that you almost feel like he has to play through it. But I think Liam Coen is starting off doing it in a very smart way. He said he's looking to simplify the Jacksonville Jaguars offense in this bye week. Taking that 80% of the playbook, kind of just simplifying things, which should help. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
And that's not just for Trevor, by the way. That's for all the people
penalties.
Thank you.
Offensive line, receiver group, etc. Help those guys with penalties, help them move faster by having a simpler offense. But also, maybe that will then allow Trevor to be able to just focus on his fundamentals, and timing, footwork, etc. Because those are the things I think he needs to continue drilling. And I don't think this is going to be something that's resolved this season. It's going to be something that he's going to have to keep working through throughout this offseason to help in the short game. Because I think if you can get good in the short game, which I still believe those are the layups like we said earlier, I think this is an adequate offense, even if you never get the deep balls right this season, which I believe they will eventually. But in the meantime, you got to be good in either the short ball or the deep ball. Like if you're going to be Drake May, you got to be great in the deep balls, but then still struggling in the short balls. You will be okay. Or if you're vice versa, if you're good in the short area but struggling in the long area, you can have an efficient offense. You just can't be bad in the short and bad in the long, and only living in the intermediate, because eventually those are just higher variant. Those are less. You're less likely to complete those throws consistently on a 3 down series. So overall, I think how you fix Trevor Lawrence, he's got to continue playing through it. I think you're doing the right thing by simplifying the offense and allowing him to focus on the fundamentals and allow him to kind of throw through this thing while continuing to put an emphasis on those fundamentals of his footwork, his footwork, his timing, and kind of those things like you would do a rookie quarterback, honestly.
That's a great answer. Now, let me add this. Yes, and is my response to you, Trevor, or Travis, Steve, whatever your name is. I called you Trevor. Good God.
Trevor Holmes. All right, cool.
Trevor, well, see, you know what it is? It's because we're talking Trevor Lawrence, and you already share a name with Travis Etienne. He has a brother named Trevor Etienne, who they played this year. I can't escape these names. Anyways.
Yes.
When the question is posed, and obviously in the grab bag, it is posed to us here at the Duval Dive, but the person ultimately tasked with answering that question, wouldn't you say that is head coach Liam Coen, along with his staff, obviously, but head coach Liam Coen is the most responsible for this. What if the strategy is, when you're evaluating a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, what you do against weaker opponents is open up your offense, throw him in the deep end, let him get familiar with it as he can and run all of it, and then hit a litmus test and see where he's at. A 2-week litmus test, let's say. When he hits that 2-week litmus test just before the bye week, he does poorly. You strip down the offense, but because he has the foundation already from earlier in the season of the complicated offense, as the season goes, should he progress, you slowly open it up. And then in the final week, when you're playing for the AFC South crown, potentially, and if everything's going according to plan, the playbook is at least close to open back up, Trevor Lawrence plays his best football to propel you into the division crown, making Kyle's crackheadiest take accurate, and you go into the playoffs and perhaps get a win. That's how you do it, and I think Liam Cohen's on his way potentially.
I mean, sure. If you think the man's playing 3D chess in that way, God bless you.
4D chess, baby.
Yeah, 4D.
Duval.
Jesus. Or the
Or it
quarterback
just goes
just
all to hell.
struggled.
Who knows? Yeah, he's just struggling.
Like,
He's got to play through
I
it.
don't know.
And next
But
offseason, he'll get it fixed. That could be it too.
but yes, how do you fix Trevor's accuracy in year 5? Coin flip. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
I think Liam Coen has a good approach. I mean, I say all that stuff to point a semi-realistic.
I think Cohen's approach is patient, and I think they're absolutely doing it in the right way. Whether or not it works is a whole nother conversation, because that just depends on that depends on where you fall on the Trevor Lawrence enigma, who he is as a quarterback. But that's it. How do you fix him? This outside of, again, sitting him down, which is not a realistic conversation. Let's be clear. This is not that kind of situation. But again, that's what you'd expect to see. That's why I use the AR-15 example, just to be very clear. I'm not calling Trevor Lawrence AR-15. I am saying normally when you're doing something that's that big of a thing with the quarterback's throwing motion that they've used their whole life.
Are you rolling Mullins? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, you normally sit them down and say, I'm going to only work on this whole few months. And that's not what Trevor's been able to do, if that makes sense. So, yeah, outside of something like that you won't see, then, yeah, this is probably what you're going to see, unless he just has the opportunity to throw through it and just simplify the offense. And that would then open up a period or two every week, every day, whatever it is, to continue working through that.
Can't put it any better. Champion. This was a conversation, and one of the better ones, I say, if I even do say so myself, that I've heard surrounding Trevor Lawrence, that leaned neither nor hater toward lover. And
I think so. I think we landed in the middle. I'm okay with that. And again, I think the civil war between defensive players and offensive players with who Trevor Lawrence is a fascinating one, because again, if you are a defensive person, you probably think he stinks. I've literally had coaches in the NFL tell me that they didn't think he was very good quarterback, and that if you kind of the same things you've already heard in the media and everything else, like, hey man, he's not the guy who's going to be the guy. He's just going to be fine, an average NFL quarterback. And then I've had other guys like former NFL players like, no, man, he's going to be that dude. And I just think that line in the sand of how folks view him just depends on whether you represent the defense or you represent the offense. Like, if you're a former defensive coach, you feel this way. If you're a player, you feel this way. Like, it's so fascinating. And I'm really interested to see where Trevor Lawrence lands, what work he puts in, whether it's in the season and the off season. And hopefully it's on the positive side, because I think it's more fun for all of us when he's playing well, man.
Tell the world you can be found, champion.
Yeah, I can be found on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. But most importantly, if you find my writing on covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com, and obviously click the like button. If you're listening to us, please help us keep expanding this thing. Click the like button, click that subscribe button, the comments on the video, help us out. It costs you nothing, but it helps us tremendously. You've seen how this thing continues to grow. I mean, we're just we're in year 3, and this thing, I mean, this is only because of you guys, your comments. This mailbag, this whole episode is because of a question from you guys. So continue engaging us, and we will continue engaging right back and giving you all the content that you're asking for, Duval. So we appreciate you guys. Let them know where you can be found, sir.
That's Russ. Keep us developing during the on season and off season. I said on season, regular season, whatever. I'm calling it the off season from now on.
In season.
That's even better. Keep us developing by doing all the stuff the champion just said. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret and the Night Shift podcast covering the UCF Knights football and basketball. They're on bye this week, but there's plenty of hoops content out there for sure. They just played Duke this past week in an exhibition. That did not go according to plan, but a lot of lessons learned. Anyways, also check out my work with the Bolt Blitz Uncut, the Chargers podcast that I produce with Booga Peters and company. And I think that's all of it. Champion, great job. We'll see in the comments how much the people do or don't like it. But until next time, everybody, class Dismissed.